With the real estate market like it is, people are waiving all kinds of contingencies. One that always comes up is the inspection contingency. Is this something that is sustainable? Is this something that we can actually do as a buyer? Well, those are questions that you need to ask yourself. You need to have an educated realtor on your side to really understand what waiving an inspection means. And there's different levels of that. So today we're going to bring on Cody Coldglazer. Super excited to have Cody from Top to Bottom Inspections. This guy's an absolute beast when it comes to inspections. He's concise, accurate, communicates well, and just puts the client at ease. After all, this is absolutely an educational experience for the client, especially in this market. Sellers aren't willing to do a lot of things, but it is very important that you are educated on the home that you're buying and investing in. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Cody on. We're going to chat about what he sees on a day-to-day basis, what he does, and how all of this craziness is affecting him. Hey everybody, Jeremy Kane, eXp Realty here. Please smash that subscribe button, ring the bell to stay in the know of all things Colorado real estate. Today is a super important one to me because everyone's talking about waiving all these contingencies, especially inspections. So stay tuned. We're going to bring Cody on and dive right in. All right, Cody Coldglazer, Top to Bottom Inspections, joins me today. We're talking all kinds of inspection waivers and things that are going on. And I just want to bring Cody on to kind of bring it from his lens and what he's seeing out there, because absolutely, waiving inspection rights and waiving objections and all of this stuff is very different. But let's go to the source and talk to Cody. So Cody Coldglazer, Top to Bottom Inspections. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Doing great, Mr. Jeremy. How are you today?
Good, man.
You've already got me busy this morning, man. I'm waking up to text for you. You got more properties under contract. I feel like I'm doing an inspection for you at least one a week. I don't know how you're doing it, but keep up the good work, buddy.
Absolutely, buddy. We still got to do those inspections, even though sometimes we're giving away the farm with the rights and that kind of stuff. So
those clients still need to know exactly what their potential risks are, maybe get a few quotes to find out what some costs are. But the biggest thing that I like that you do that I encourage a lot of realtors is just painting an expectation for the experience for the client, And I think you do a really good job of that too, just kind of getting people set up for maybe potentially some, I don't want to call it bad news, but for some things that could be addressable, and just them knowing that may fall on them and it's all good, and get some quotes and start moving forward.
Right. And that kind of brings me to my first question I had for you is, what do you do? Because obviously you're an inspector, you have your job and your duty. But when we're talking pass fail, when we're talking no inspection objection, education only, does that change anything you do? Or do you just show up and do what you do?
For us, we just show up and give a 100%. Name of my company is Top to Bottom Home Inspections, and that's exactly what we do, And I even have a couple of folks that kind of try to preface that to us, like, hey, our clients only have a health and safety objection, or we're only allowed to ask for items over $3,000, items like that. And for us, it honestly doesn't matter, because we just want to give your clients a complete picture of exactly what they're getting into. So yes, we can kind of touch on some of those items on what could be, more of a red flag and more of a cost and maybe fall under their objection terms. But for us, we just inspect the house completely. Our biggest thing is for these buyers or sellers, if we're doing a pre-list inspection, to have the least amount of surprises as possible. So for us, we do a complete inspection regardless of what the terms are. We don't even honestly always care what the terms are, just because for us, even if it's a door hinge or a broken sewer line, I want all the clients to have all the information so they can kind of take it all in and object and move forward from there.
Right. So that's very important, and what a lot of people don't understand. And everyone will say waive their inspection. Typically what they're talking about when they say waiving an inspection is waiving their ability to object to issues in the house. Most of the time, especially in my contracts, I still hold that inspection termination deadline so that they're able to terminate if the house is literally a lemon, so to speak. So it's really important that when you hear what Cody's saying and understand that his job is completely separate of whatever terms us crazy realtors put on the contracts and what for our buyers. Obviously, it's very important if you're buying a home to be educated on what you're signing. And sometimes people just don't know. Like, I think agents just rush into it and they're like, we got to waive inspection. We got to waive appraisal. We got to do this. We got to do that. And buyer's like, okay, but do you as a buyer really know what that means? And how high are you going? I mean, I lost a contract the other day to someone who said they weren't going to inspect the house. Absolutely not what I would say is appropriate, taking on a ton of liability, either as the buyer or the realtor who's suggesting that they don't inspect the house. So it's really about education, and Cody is absolutely top notch at educating the client. And talk a little bit about your go-tos as far as education and what you do to help comfort the buyer, but educate them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the biggest thing, right? We want to be the bridge to people between the potential issues that they may have and kind of putting a lens on it all. A lot of the stuff that we identify is $50 to $100, watch a YouTube video, go to Home Depot, you own a house now, call Jeremy, he'll lend you a hammer and some tools and get you guys taken care of. So a lot of the stuff that we like to do, obviously we're gonna need licensed professionals in our houses doing work from time to time. But we like to give people a big educational, like we're not reinventing the wheel. And I say that to people all the time, stay in your lane. I say that to people all the time in terms of just the house building process and the house maintenance process. But there is a lot of things, especially with YouTube and Google and things being the way they are, that homeowners can address themselves. Very easy to kind of Google, watch some videos, diagnose some things, maybe take 10 trips to Home Depot because you don't really know what the hell you're doing. But it's almost spring, those sprinkler. Oh man. Scratching their heads standing in the aisle. I was actually thinking, I have some landscaping buddies and I told them, just go hang out at the aisle at Home Depot with the sprinkler heads. You can make thousands of dollars very easily.
Yeah.
But even items like that, talking to people about sprinkler systems and kind of painting the clear picture to them, just so they're not calling you or calling me when they turn on their sprinkler system and it doesn't work in the springtime. Just kind of talking to those things. I kind of like to use humor as some of my ways to kind of explain things to people. But sprinkler head's a great example. You are never going to turn on your sprinkler system and not have any issues, whether it's replacing one head, even just changing the way that it sprays because it's got spun. My wife and I both have a tendency to run over sprinkler heads in our front if they're not going down all the way. So, items like that. And then just basic maintenance, educational items like changing your furnace filter, replacing smoke detector batteries, cleaning the vent fans in the bathroom. So when you turn on that ventilation fan, it can actually remove from the room. So the educational process for us is what it's all about, and not always deciding what is a really important deal and what's not. There's some items that are going to be a big cost, but there's a lot of stuff, like I said, that's just $50 to $100 and watching the YouTube video.
Yeah. And that's, I love the putting it into perspective. Obviously a lot of inspectors are getting caught up in all of the contract terms and things like that. But the truth is, as an inspector, you're not doing your job if you're not providing basically a textbook on the house that you've inspected to them. And your reports are really great and kind of go through step by step because and then you summarize the important things, the things that maybe will be a negotiation. You do that anyways, even though I've had some that were like, hey, just make sure the house isn't falling down. It's still a full educational process. Someone is paying you good hard-earned money to give them the education. And as you say, like, you may ask for it, you may not. That's between you, Jeremy, and the other realtor. I've heard that part of your spiel several times. And that's super important to understand, and kind of goes back to staying in your lane and understanding, okay, this is everything you need to know about the house, because obviously you carry some liabilities with that as well.
Yeah, and just painting expectations for people too. And you hear me say it every day. I'll say it at the inspection that I'm doing for you on Thursday. We're going to talk about some items right now, but the majority of these aren't even appropriate to bring up to the selling party. Maybe the market will change. There were times 3 or 4 years ago that somebody would take a picture off the wall and there'd be a hole in the drywall and somebody'd ask them to fix it. Unfortunately, times are kind of shifting. That's not the way it's going down as it sits now. I was just in a house last week that the furnace was actually terminating into the attic. So, we got 300 to 500 degrees coming out and it was terminating into the attic. Totally caused a fire. We got black soot and everything all over the decking in the attic. And the selling party, even though it was a safety concern and they had no term, like they said, do you want to buy the house or not? We're not fixing it. And it's just kind of some of those items that the buyers need to know exactly what their options are when we give them a laundry list of things, just so they can kind of be ready.
Right. And that's the thing. A lot of realtors put in like health and safety concerns, and that's extremely objective. Like it could run the gamut. I could say a dripping faucet or a dripping, drain pipe under my sink is a health and safety concern because that water in the dark can eventually cause mold over time.
It's so true, man. Right. I saw a bypass closet door. So, closet doors that just open this way, they just slide past each other. Right. It was missing the floor guide. Well, there was a kid who literally had their pinky toe ripped off by this closet door because, and it's items like that. $2 piece of plastic that's in the carpet to guide the closet doors. Yeah. It could be a very big safety concern. So it's all objective. Some people have allergens that others don't. So, it's all very objective, and it's kind of hard to, as a realtor, I'm sure right now, kind of navigate through some of that because depending on verbiage, anything could be a safety concern.
Right. And that's the thing. So like when your realtor's out there saying, hey, we'll only ask for major health and safety concerns. Well, ripping a toe off sounds pretty major to me.
Yes.
So if you can make a $2 piece of plastic a health and safety concern, we can make anything a health and safety concern. Ethics and things fall into play. But the bottom line is, when I'm writing these clauses and contracts, and most of the contracts I write have, buyer maintains all rights associated with inspection, termination, and resolution will only object to major items concerning plumbing, electrical, HVAC, structural, including roof, and environmental concerns is kind of my go-to. And that kind of covers, okay, we're only going to ask for things. We're not going to ask for any cosmetic things. This is essentially what that clause says. But also a drippy faucet could be included in plumbing, right? Sewer lines could be included in the plumbing. So that's kind of where we go. But it's so nice that regardless of what I put in the contract and what my client decides to put in the contract and, agree to, I have an asset in Cody that just drops a huge value on your home and educating. I tell people all the time, do we have to go to the inspection? Well, you should, because you're paying $500 for an inspection, and it's basically free knowledge to you. The inspection and your inspection report is only for your information in this market.
For us too, because they can kind of see the lens of severity of some of these issues, because we can say, this is what stands out to me, but like we just talked about, everybody has different levels, thresholds of what is okay and what's not okay. And like, I don't know if somebody has $25,000 in the bank to remodel a bathroom, or if they're going to be scraping across just to, catch a bucket so they can water their plants outside because they got their drippy faucet. Yeah. The question I have for you, just out of curiosity, and for the other agents that may be watching this, are you seeing selling parties negotiate a little different once you're actually under contract, done the inspection, and kind of given them some items? Maybe it's not even in your objection terms. Are you seeing people be a little more flexible at the finish line just to not start this process over again?
The sellers, it depends. It depends on how the listing agent presents the offers. It depends on what they have. Because there's all kinds of emotions and things that go into sellers choosing offers. And so it depends. Like some people dig their heels in and be like, no, kind of the DIY, soldier that's, super proud of what they've done. It also depends, right? It also depends on the seller, like, oh, that's right. Or, we didn't need to pull a permit to finish our basement, and oops, we forgot to put floating walls in or something, things like that, that are kind of a bigger deal. And I love going to inspections because I can kind of see the value of the house through what Cody educates the clients on. Like, okay, I can typically see if it's DIY, but is it solid work? Is it to code? Is it, or are they cutting corners? Because if they're cutting corners on tile installation or painting doors or anything like that, they're probably cutting
face.
Right.
Yes.
They're probably cutting corners on plumbing, electrical, so on. So that just paints a picture. And then of course, like if we have a house that doesn't have GFCI protection, but my client's an electrician, like that's a whole different ballgame,
and that's a lot of stuff we talk to too. We're not reinventing the wheel here too, right? We can come into a house. We've got multiple houses this year built in the 50s or this week that are built in the 50s. And there's going to be some items that we're going to recommend come up to today's standards, but it's another one of those things, right? We're not reinventing the wheel here. These buyers can know this house has been standing and functional longer than all of us have been alive. But it's just nice for them to know the potentials in the future. Is it something that needs to be addressed right this second? No. If you don't do anything and sell your house in 7 years, do I want you to know that somebody's going to be bringing this up to you again? Yes.
Right. And that's the thing, like radon, right? Everyone's like, oh, I'm cool with radon. I can leave my door open, ventilation. I always have fans on, whatever that may be. But I look at people and I say, well, the seller will fix it right now for you, if, depending on what our terms are. And guaranteed in 5 years when you go to sell that house, even though this is your forever house, the average person stays in their home for 5 to 7 years, guaranteed that radon's going to come up and be higher, and the next buyer is going to make you pay for it. So you might as well have the seller pay for it out of their ridiculous amount of proceeds that we're seeing come across the table right now. Exactly. So that's where it's at. And that's why I appreciate it. Just a great, and believe it or not, like, electrical code and technology has changed since 1950. So if you have an original electrical box in a 1950 house, I'm going to say, whoa, that's old, at the showing, and kind of preface that. And, if the furnace is avocado green and the water heater is, yellow, I'm going to be like, dude, those are old. Like, those are something we should factor in, because there's no guarantee the seller's going to fix it at inspection. So understand that if they're working and running and safe, it's probably not going to be something that they're going to pay for, but it's going to be something that eventually will break down.
Somebody will be opening their wallet at some point, and that's the thing that we want to do, right? And just because the furnace is old doesn't mean it's going to stop working the next winter. But we just like to paint a picture to these clients just so they can know, and in a year or two, if and when they have to replace this furnace and it costs, $3,000 to $6,000, they're not surprised. They were told before they bought the house. They know. I even kind of make jokes to people about, hey, I think it's about time for you to put $8,500 to the side. So when this happens, it sucks, but you're ready for it.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, let's kind of wrap this up. I know you're a busy guy. You probably got a few inspections to get to today. What is the craziest thing you have seen at an inspection? And I hope I wasn't there.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, well, I won't talk about anyone but you, because you only send us to pristine.
Oh, of course. Always, right?
We've had a couple. So just a few weeks ago, we were at an older house. My partner Jordan was doing the inspection. It was a house in Denver built in 1898. We got to the house and there were 7 homeless people sleeping in the basement. They had moved in somehow since the showings over the weekend to the inspection on Wednesday. They had somehow gotten furniture, clothes, and a mini fridge into this house where they were just having a good time. So we were not able to inspect that property that day. They tried to reschedule us to come back later that week, but we went ahead and declined on that property, just because leaving radon monitors, thousands of dollars equipment in some of these properties where it's not being protected, hard to sell. And the other would be that furnace flue that I was telling you about. Yeah. The fact that there's so much going on that people don't realize. So if there's even anybody out here watching that's lived in your house for 20, 30, 40 years and you're just concerned if there's anything going on, please give us a call. We actually do a lot of maintenance inspections for folks as well who have been in their houses for 20 plus years, who haven't been in their attic, who haven't crawled down in their crawl space and done some of those items.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you never know. And that's a huge item. I mean, there's all kinds of things besides the heat from the furnace exhaust.
Sometimes you get your roof replaced and there's just a lot of hammering and banging going on up there, and things come disconnected, and everything doesn't last forever, and time just does what time does. So it's always nice to just have a fresh pair of eyes. Awesome.
Cool, man. And where could people contact you on your socials, phone number, if they were interested in getting one of those maintenance inspections or a home inspection comes up?
I'll definitely get some info out to you on the link here, top to bottom home inspections, t2binspections.com. And I'll make sure here in the chat or somewhere below, I'll get all my contact information out for you.
Okay, perfect. And I'll post it below. And thanks so much for your time today, Cody. Go save the world, inspect some houses today. I appreciate everything you do, man.
Hey, Jeremy, we really appreciate you, man. I think that I just looked, we're somewhere around the 70 range for inspections for you just in the last couple of years. So
perfect.
You are definitely kicking butt. Any agents out there that are looking for the special sauce, give Jeremy a call.